meeting at 9:06 a.m. on January 17th, 2025. This meeting is being held in person and through MS Teams video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be posted on the internet for public viewing. I will now call roll. Megan Johns, here. Jennifer White.
Absent, Chair.
Brenna Lagarde, not here. Samantha Parnham.
Here.
Marie McMahon.
Here.
Corey Stump.
Here.
Brad Hendershot.
Here.
Chair, did you call yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I read the next part? Sorry.
Yes, please.
Okay. Members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. Board members, you are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings. The Health Licensing Office, the HLO, asks that individuals attending through MS Teams keep their phones muted and cameras off during the entire meeting or until they are given an opportunity to comment during the public and interested parties feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this board has statutory authority to regulate. Public members wishing to speak, please sign in on the roster sheet available in the room or email Josh Page at josh.page@oha.oregon.gov and provide your first and last name. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Good morning again, everybody. This is Bob Bothwell. I'm the Director at the Health Licensing Office. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
This is McMahon. I move to approve the agenda.
We can get a second, please.
This is Brad. I second.
Chair, roll call.
Megan Johns, I. Samantha Parnham.
Aye.
Marie McMahon.
Aye.
Corey Stump.
Aye.
Brad Hendershot.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Chair, members of the board, the next item on the agenda are reports, and we'll start the director's report. Okay, Chair at 9:09, Brenna Lagarde has joined the meeting.
I have.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry about the delay.
Probably. We just approved the agenda and we're on into the director's reports right now. The first item in the director's report is the membership information and training. The standards currently, Megan is in a second term. It expires December 16th, 2026, and Megan cannot reappoint. Bradley Hendershot is in a second term. It expires October 31, 2024, and Brad is serving until replaced. Brenna Lagarde is also in the second term, also expired October 31 of 2023 and serving until replaced. Marie McMahon is in the second term and it expires October 31, 2027, cannot reappoint. Corey Stump is also in the second term. It expires October 31 of 2027, cannot reappoint. Samantha Parnham, second term, also expires October 31, 2027, cannot reappoint. And Jennifer White is in a second term. It expires February 13 of 2028. Okay. And also it's a new year. So there's some trainings that the board members have to take. And those trainings are listed in the board materials. Any questions on board member standings?
No.
Moving on to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission's new rules. The Ethics Commission has changed some rules that became effective in October of 2024, actually on October 1, 2024. And I'm going to read a summarization of some specific areas of interest to the boards. And we'll attempt to answer questions if you have any when we're done. So a public comment. The rules state that when public comment is allowed, then the presiding officer may regulate the order in which people can speak, how long people can speak, and that the person's presentation be relevant to the board. And the rule specifically says, unless otherwise provided by statute, charter, or other organic law of the governing body, the public body, presiding officer has inherent authority to keep order and impose any reasonable restrictions necessary for the efficient and orderly conduct of a meeting. If public participation is to be part of the meeting, the presiding officer may regulate the order and length of appearances and limit appearances to presentations of relevant points. So the HLO has revised, and you probably have noticed the scripts, Chair, that has revised open and closed public meeting scripts to align with the new rules established by OGEC, the Government Ethics Commission, and recommendations made by DAS. Changes to the script include ensure rules for public comment opportunity are carried out equally for each member of the public, virtual or in person. Notification and public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to the board's statutory authority to regulate. Notification to the public that HLO or the chairperson may end a person's comment if it does not pertain to matters listed on the agenda or relevant topics or can regulate. This may include muting the commenter and time parameters for each person to speak. And then there's a new requirement for filing grievances against the public body. Regarding the new law, ORS 192.705, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission offers a complaint process to submit alleged violations of Oregon Public Meetings Law. Information about the process and frequently asked questions can be found at the OGEC website. Pertaining to filing of written grievances, the HLO has taken certain actions to comply with the new law. OER 199-050-070070 states a public body shall post on its website the person and contact information to whom a grievance may be submitted and the regular business hours during which in-person grievances will be accepted. In the absence of a designated person, a grievance may be submitted to the public body's chief administrative officer or the chair of the governing body. Josh Page, board specialist, has been designated by HLO as a person to whom a grievance may be submitted. This information is on the HLO main webpage and each profession's website. Josh can be contacted directly at josh.page@oha.oregon.gov. Appointing one central person to accept grievances will streamline the process, help HLO and the boards meet relevant response deadlines, and reduce the likelihood of misinformation or a mistake in the new grievance process. Because Josh is the designated person for the filing of written grievances, board chairs and board members should not accept any written grievances and should direct the individuals with public meeting law questions or complaints to the information on HLO's and the profession's websites. Breadth of a grievance. Due to recent law change, the Government Ethics Commission can now enforce state laws governing public meeting law, including executive session. When government ethic investigates public meeting law complaints, it opens cases against each board member. All board members can be held liable if OGEC finds a public meetings law violation. For more information, you can see OGEX website or refer to OAR 199-050-0075. Which states, the purpose of this rule is to clarify procedures regarding opening of one or more preliminary reviews based on a complaint of violations of public meetings law made against one or more members of the governing body. A complaint alleging violations of public meetings law that is filed with the commission under ORS 192.685 will be construed as a complaint against all members of the governing body, and cases will be open for each member of the governing body. When a complaint involves the members of the governing body, the commission hearing of the governing body's members' case will be consolidated at the preliminary review phase and investigative phase. Unless one or more members of the governing body object to the consolidation, all the conclusions of the preliminary review phase or investigative phase, the commission will make individual determinations regarding the cases of each member of the governing body. A complaint that is dismissed for failing to comply with the grievance requirements in ORS 192.685 is a procedural dismissal only. The dismissal does not prevent the commission from taking up the matter on the commission's own motion. The dismissal does not prohibit the commission from considering a new complaint based on the same conduct alleged in the dismissed complaint if the new complaint is based on a grievance that was timely submitted to the public body and that complied with these rules. So this letter was sent to the chair, and we will add it to today's materials on our website. And it does have links to the ORS and the OARs as well that include the executive session, the public meeting laws. Sorry you had to listen to me for so long. Are there any questions that I can try to answer? This is relatively new to us as well, but I felt that it was extremely important to get it out to the boards as soon as possible. Questions? Okay. If you do have questions later on, of course, you can email Ann, myself, or Josh, and we will get them answered right away. It's a lot to absorb so early in the morning, and it was definitely a lot to read, but we got through it, and thank you for your patience. Josh, you can take that down, please. Excellent. There, now you get to look at my face. So the next item on the agenda is the licensing statistical facts. So in Q3 of fiscal year 25, we have issued 3 behavior analyst licenses. We have not issued any assistant behavior analyst licenses since Q2 of fiscal year 2025, and at that point we issued 6. Behavior analyst interventionists in Q3 of 2025, we have issued 33. Licenses renewed, and I like to always point this out to everybody, is the vast majority of licenses renewed are done online, and I thank you very much. That streamlines things and makes our life easier at HLO. And I'm sorry, and that was for the behavior analyst. And so there was 11 total that were renewed online in Q3. We haven't had any renewed in Q3 of the assistant behavior analysts. And in Q2 of 2025, there was 4. The behavior analysts, interventionists, they too do a great job of getting renewed online. And in Q3, we've renewed 6 licenses. Analysts by age and gender. There's one identified as a female in the 66 to 73 range. Noted, and the bulk is between 26-33 and then 34 to 41. And all identified as females. System behavior analyst by age and gender as well. Again, predominantly appear to be those identified as female. And interventionist is our youngest group with approximately 471 that identify as female between the age of 18 to 25. Licensing trends are for the behavior analyst is pretty static in the 490 range. And the behavior analyst, assistant behavior analyst, sorry, it did take a dip in Q1 25, but as expected, it's moving back up in the positive territory. With Q3, there's 20. Assume that would continue to grow because we have a little bit left in the third, fourth quarters. Behavior analyst interventionist, it continues to increase. There was a dip in Q2 of fiscal year 2024, and then it's continued to increase ever since. And that's 1,734 total in Q3 of fiscal year 2025. Any questions? And I apologize that it is so boring of stats. If no questions, I'll move on to the financials. And the board is sitting very well. And fiscal year 2025 had a beginning balance of 837,655. Revenues of 178,241. Expenditures of 123,510. Net operations of 54,731, and any cash balance of $892,000. Excuse me, let me try to reread that again. $892,387. Anybody have any questions on those reports? If not, Trampus, are you out there?
I am here.
You want to provide the board with a regulatory report, please?
All right. So my name is Travis Shuck. I'm the interim regulatory manager here at the Health Licensing Office, and I'm here to talk about the regulatory report. So you can see the report. We've got 2 biennium currently on that report. We've got the current biennium that we're in that we're probably 6 months, about 6 months from being all the way through that one. So if we were talking quarters, we're 3/4 of the way through. And you can see for this current biennium that we're in, we've actually received 11 complaints, 8 of which are still open, and 3 of them are closed. Then there is a couple of complaints still hanging on from the previous biennium, the 2023 biennium. During that biennium, we only received 8 reports or 8 complaints. 5 are closed and 3 are currently still open. So that's what you see on this report. I do want to kind of go back a little bit in the history of this. If you look at those numbers, you'd see that we have a little bit of a jump up in 2025, and because we aren't quite through there, we don't know what to expect. There could be several more, or it could be none that come in. But just for a little historical, I looked back to see what the previous bienniums were because I thought that they were much higher, and not showing on this report because all the cases are closed. The 2021 biennium, the previous right before this last 2023 biennium, we had 27 complaints come in that biennium. And then the previous was 13. So I'm not sure if we just had a spike in the 2021 biennium, but we'll see as these numbers play out, and we'll keep an eye on that to help us allocate resources for your regulatory needs. So The complaints, so you can see the complaints by type. We have of all of the complaints we have or that came in over the last 2 biennium, which is 19, 4 of which were licensing concerns. 1 was a mandatory reporting situation. 1 was actually a safety and sanitation issue, and 13 were services provided. Services provided would probably be the one that you're going to see. That's going to be the things like professional standards and all of those types of things. So those are the ones you're probably most familiar with. But then complainants by type, we had 0 anonymous complaints, which is interesting, but it sounds like everybody is willing to put their name on these complaints. We don't really see clients complain here because the clients are usually kids. So typically other is your biggest category, and on this report, that's what it shows, is that all 19 of these complaints were some other person other than an anonymous person or the client themselves. Could have been a parent, could have been another behavior analyst, could have been some other, person outside that realm. So that is the regulatory report. Does anybody have any questions about the numbers they're seeing or what they represent, or any kind of regulatory questions in general? I'd be happy to answer anything that I can.
This is McMahon.
This
I
is-
have a question. Oh, sorry, Brad. I just
No,
really
no,
quickly
go ahead.
on the complainants by type. I'm curious for the other. Is there? I don't. Maybe I'm just more curious if when it says other, is it predominantly parents? Do we track that in some way? Is it other? Because that would be. I'm off.
Right.
Sometimes I think of parents as they're not the direct client, but they are the client, right? And so I'm
Right.
curious if we're seeing are people feeling agency to make complaints, or are we seeing other people providing those complaints? I'm just a little curious about is other predominantly parents, or are they other people, just as it implies?
I can just say by the person who does see all of these complaints.
Yeah.
I would say it's somewhere in the 50-50-ish range.
Okay.
That it's parents versus clients. Now, that's a really good point. I think that traditionally, when these are being recorded, they've put client as it's always been the actual person. But when you're talking about children, client could very well also be extended to include the parent, because they are the ones who are they're the ones who are bringing the children to these to have these services.
Sure.
So that could be actually a change in the way that we start coding this, and I can look into if that is something I can do. And unfortunately, it wouldn't go retroactive, but
That's fine.
I could look into changing that at some point and just saying, okay, from this point forward, we know that client is also going to, really does probably should capture the parents as well. So that's a good point. I'll look into changing
Thank
that
you. Thank you.
procedure on this. So.
This is Brad. I'm just curious. It seems like it's been a while since we've been in executive section to adjudicate complaints. Is that something that I was just curious to know what the status with the board on looking at the board looking at those.
Right. Yeah. So the status on looking at any cases that come in, typically, if a case has findings, clear, it's clearly, or we're sure that this has, hey, we've got these findings, and we need the board to look at this and say, what do we want to do with this? Also, if there's any kind of even we're not sure. Oh gosh, it's we're not sure if this is there's any kind of gray or not. The only cases that we would close that are that we wouldn't bring and have the board review would be a case that's just very clearly out of our, the allegations end up not being really in our jurisdiction at all. And we also have a subject matter expert that helps us vet that. So it's not just, you know, me or the investigator. There's a subject matter expert that looks at it and goes, yeah, this case isn't even, you know, this is outside of our standard, you know, outside of what we would be able to regulate in our standards. So, but anything that's even a whiff of gray or definitely has findings, we bring to the board. So, and it's just, you know, it's just a kind of a timing issue. Sometimes we'll go a couple of board meetings and have nothing, and then we'll have 2 or 3. So, yeah, but we
Thank
would
you.
bring those to the board for sure. Any other questions for about regulatory or any of that? All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right, Chair and members, I am going to step out of the way and Ann is going to slide in.
Josh, could you bring the materials up on the screen, please? Good morning, everybody. For the record, my name is Ann Thompson, the policy analyst for the Behavior Analysis Regulatory Board. We're going to start today, borrow a giant pile of paperwork from Bob. If you remember, I'm going to have to put you in the Wayback Machine. About a year ago, the board was talking about looking at the standards of practice for behavior analysts and assistant behavior analysts that are licensed with the board. Currently, we, in our rule that I have up on the screen, we have that the board adopted chapters 1 through 9 of the 2016 BACB Professional and Ethic Compliance Code for Behavior Analysts. Later on, the board wanted to adopt the rule number 3 that you see about the use of restraints. Well, in recent years, in 2022, the BACB released an updated code. And we had looked at that, discussed that. That's included in your packet. If you could roll down a little bit, Josh. And this, I included in the packet what our current compliance code looks like. So you can see chapter 1 through 9 are very clearly outlined. And the 22 code, you can see how clearly, when it comes to regulation, it is fabulous when you can point exactly to the chapter, the line where there was a violation. The 2022 code from the BACB was a little less clear. It was a little more wordy. And so the board wasn't really sure kind of what they wanted to do going forward. So one of the things you asked me about was to do a quick scan of other states. So it's been a year since I did it, but I looked at every state that has licensing for behavior analysts, technicians, assistants, and I included that in your packet. If we could scroll up to that, Josh. I know, don't look directly at the screen, you'll get nauseous, right? It's underneath. I have to scroll down a little bit further. Okay. Now, what's going by now, just for your purposes, is the 22 code, ethics code that we had talked about. And while we're getting down to the scan of all the states, does anybody have any questions? Did I get you in the Wayback Machine and bring you up to where we are now? Yeah, there. Well, thank you. So one of the things I learned, and we know this when we're asked to look at other states, every single state does things differently. Some states still have the 2016 BACB ethical code. Some do their own thing. Some just started their licensing program. Some have the actual grounds, like Hawaii has the grounds for refusal to renew right in their statutes. Some do the terrifying thing of saying, oh yeah, the board adopts the most recent version of the BACB ethical codes. That's terrifying to me as a regulator, because Well, how's a licensee supposed to know what's in effect? How's a regulator supposed to know what's in effect? That's, people who want to write rules and be really lazy, that's terrific, because you can just say, oh yeah, whatever the most recent one is. That's terrible for licensees and regulators. So we just don't want to do that, these pass-throughs. So before we move on, does anybody have a question about this nationwide scan that I did for you? I believe Brad and Brenna were the most interested in this.
This is Brad. I don't have any questions, but I appreciate the information.
Okay, fantastic. Again, it's not pretty, it's not formatted, there aren't photos, but we went really fast.
So
If
one
you
of the-
notice, go ahead, Brenna.
Sorry, yeah, one of the things we were talking about is, sorry, I'm pausing because this was in executive session. Like we were interested in to what extent other states had modified
Mhm.
or adopted in part, right? Do you have a,
And
yeah, and I'm sorry.
I
didn't
gotcha.
get-
no, I got you, Brenna. I know exactly where you're going. I'm happy. Whoa, a little bit more. Okay, so what we found with this work, and you stop there, Josh, thank you. What made the 2022 code complex was there were some terms that collided with the established terms in Oregon for ABA, for different things. And we can't have definitions that are different. We all have to be on the same page. The formatting on it was a little difficult to enforce because when there's a paragraph describing things and a regulator is looking at a finding or a possible violation, it's very difficult to say, okay, page 2, paragraph 3, words 37 through 46. It was just very difficult to parse things out in a clear way. So one of the things that you were particularly interested in, Brenna, was what would it look like if Oregon went through the 2022 standards and extracted the enforceable information. Remember, we talked about this with the interventionist rule that you adopt proposed. It's out for public comment right now on the proposed methods and procedures followed by interventionists. And we focused on the word enforceable. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is what a draft rule might look like. Obviously, we would have to reformat because the Secretary of State goes little a, big A, then Roman numeral, so there'd be some formatting changes. But this is the extracted, the distilled information from the 2022 BACB code. And this is what it looks like. So
Okay.
what I wanted to ask you all today was, number one, obviously you've seen how other states do it, which is funfetti, choose your own adventure. And look at this extraction. Look at the 2016 code that we currently have in effect and kind of talk about what you feel as a board is the best way to move forward for licensees and the public. Would you want to move forward with this distillation of the BACB code? If so, obviously we have a special meeting coming up in February, but it would be for the July meeting when you'd get a schedule and all that. Or looking at this, is it better, the board says, to stick with what you have, the 2016 code, which near as I can tell, talking to regulatory and all you could see from the complaints, it seems to be working. It's clear, it's easily understood. So now I open the floor. By the way, just before we get there, I sent this distillation to the BACB because this is their intellectual property. And we know they are very protective of their property. And because we distilled from the original document, we went so far as to send them a licensing agreement saying, we'd like to use this Is that cool? And they signed it.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, I told you I had a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
However, just so that you know, they agreed to this distillation. If the board decides they would like to change something in this, or if we put it out for public comment and somebody wanted to change a word, a comma, we would have to go back to the BACB and ask for a new licensing agreement. And you never know the reception you're gonna get, right? So what I did was I prepared as best I could to have everything ready for the board to discuss this and the what ifs to the extent I could taken care of. So now I open the floor for you guys to discuss. Would the board like to update your ethics rule? And if so, how would you approach that?
This is McMahon, and I'm not a BCBA, but I appreciate. I'm a psychologist looking at. It's very clear the information, and so I appreciate that. If I'm kind of trying to look at the rules for my profession, I like that it's sort of so. I like what I'm seeing, Anne. So thank you for your time and effort on that.
Are you talking about what we have currently, the 2016, the blue?
I'm sorry. The new one, what the page that we're looking at right now, where it's kind of detailed with the proposed adoption. Yes.
Right, well, this is a draft. We're not even
Yes.
proposing it. This is sort of the distillation what if.
Right. Right.
Great, okay, thank you.
And the only other comment I would have in favor of this kind of approach is that, like time will go on, the BACB will continue to update its ethical code. I think this organization, like this governing body, is going to need a mechanism to keep up with future amendments. So I think this looks good now at this point in time. And I also think that this provides a vehicle to kind of move away from the 2016 rules, because at some point, they're just, I don't know if the substance is going to change that much, but I think it's going to be important again to reconcile the state's rules with what the BACB does in a way that also is attendant to the state's needs.
Just so that everyone knows, just to be very clear, because I mentioned it, but I want to reiterate, one of the reasons this is just a what if would be when you do get the draft rules to talk about in your summer meeting, obviously I would have to include the number 3 in the standards of practice, which was the rule that the board adopted regarding the use of restraints, which is if you choose to use them, then everyone has to have a copy of what the policy is and all that. And this obviously doesn't have that. So again, the what if. So Brenna likes this one, and Marie does too. Who else?
Why do you say that?
Well, she hasn't been texting.
Until this morning.
Yeah, your mic is live. Chair Johns or Corey, how are we feeling?
This is Megan. I agree with what's been said. I also like how the BACB is on board with it too. We haven't historically always had that. And so I feel like that's positive.
This is Corey Stump. I second what Megan says. I feel like if we have an opportunity from the BACB to have something actually written in approval, we should kind of hop on it.
Brad, are you on board?
Yeah, this is Brad. I'm finding that I'm wanting time to study the language. So forgive me for not having a strong opinion at this time.
Not a problem. And that's why, I really try with these big packets. I really try to get them out to you as soon as possible because I love that you guys all actually go through your materials. And one of the things that's difficult with something like this is everything is so big. The 2016 code, obviously you have to see chapters 1 through 9. You have to see the updated BACB code, which is many, many pages. So there's just a lot, and I get that. And please take time. We would bring, if the board is feeling comfortable, I can certainly bring this formatted correctly with the restraints rule tacked on the bottom as a proposed draft, what do you think, with a schedule at the summer meeting. So I'm getting the feeling that everybody is pretty good with that. The other thing though, does anybody have any more questions for this section? Because if not, I have to move us to the next section of the agenda. Good. So with no further ado, and please feel free to cruise the materials. If you have any questions, don't ask each other, ask me, and I'd be happy to help you. Or if things come up before the summer meeting, issues, concerns, things you want to talk about, please let me know. Because this is a very dialed in group and I want to make sure that's all available to you in summer. So if that works, what I will need to do though, because I also included the licensing agreement because our materials are thorough. I would need the board, I need a first and a second and a roll call to authorize HLO to sign the licensing agreement that is present now, and that will ink it in stone and allow us to move forward. So do we have a first, second, and I would need a roll call vote to ask HLO to sign the agreement with the BACB. Do I have a motion?
This is Brenna, so moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is McMahon. I second.
So I will go around the room. That is okay. Answer aye or nay. Megan?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Reed?
Sorry, who?
Corey Stump?
Aye.
Samantha?
Aye.
And Brenna?
Aye.
So we have a motion and a unanimous roll call to direct the HLO to sign the licensing agreement with the BACB. So with that being said, thank you, Josh, to take that off the screen. I will turn this back over to Director Bothwell. See if we have public interested parties feedback.
I am back. Chair, you want to read us into public and interested parties feedback.
Yes. At this time, the Behavior Analysis Regulatory Board will hear public and interested parties' feedback. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this board has statutory authority to regulate. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and will not be allowed if they are disruptive to the board's conduct of its business. If you are called on to comment, HLO staff will request the public member to unmute themselves. The chairperson and the HLO reserve the right to end a person's comment early and have HLO staff mute the public member if the comment does not pertain to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this board has statutory authority to regulate. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment? If so, please raise your hand or use the MS Teams raise hand feature and wait to be acknowledged.
Yeah. Joanna. Hi, Joanna. Go ahead and unmute yourself. There you go. And you can take your hand down.
Hello. I actually just have questions for the end of the meeting or yeah, just for the end of the meeting.
So now is your opportunity. Because at the end of the meeting is your public interested parties feedback comment period is over, but what you can do alternatively is send an email to us. You can look at the materials to get Josh's email address or Ann's, I think, and mine as well. Is that what you want to do, Joanna?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I thought there was one or two other folks in the public. Chair, I am not seeing any other hands up.
Okay.
Move on to other board business. Ann jump in real quick.
Okay. Hi again, everybody. I mentioned it before, but we are currently in the public comment period for the interventionist professional methods and procedures that you approved, proposed at your December meeting. So we're in the middle of that. And I wanted to let you know that, remind you that on February 7th, we have a special meeting where we will only talk about the finalization of that rule. You'll review any public comment received, the hearing will have been done, and you would consider any public comment that comes in regarding that rule. And that, again, that is going to be, I believe, at 9:00. And that's all I have. Is there anything else any board member wants to have added to the July meeting? The special meeting is already locked down.
Special meeting, I have 11:30 to 1, must be one.
Oh, is the special meeting at 11:30? That's right, we had a quorum issues. Okay, so the special meeting's at 11:30. Thank you, Josh, voice of reason from the back. Is there anything anyone else would like to add to the July meeting? Because if not, you just let me know if you think of anything. Anybody? You guys are quiet today. Okay. Well, just a reminder, we're still in the public comment period. You'll hear about that on February 7th. And our July meeting, if you can believe, is on July 11th. So we will see you then. So Bob, I don't know if you have anything else, any member of staff have anything?
I do not. So if there's nothing else,
Megan can read us out.
Great. Oops. The Behavior Analysis Regulatory Board meeting is adjourned at 9:53 a.m.
excellent. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.